You used Grandpa's land for his bail? Lily's voice cracked across the police station lobby as she snatched the paperwork off the counter. You already sold it? Her mother wouldn't look at her. Her father stood beside Dylan, her 20-year-old brother, still wearing the same stained hoodie from the night he got arrested. Lily's stomach dropped when she saw the document title. Transfer of property ownership. Her land. The farmland her grandfather left only to her. The signature at the bottom had her name on it, but she had never signed anything. Dylan suddenly reached for the papers. Lily, just calm down. Don't touch me. People in the lobby had already stopped talking. Even the desk officer was staring now. Then a detective walked through the front doors, holding a folder stamped with a county seal. He glanced at the paperwork in Lily's hands, then immediately grabbed his radio. That land transfer is fraudulent, he said sharply. Nobody leaves this station. The entire lobby froze. Lily looked up so fast her neck hurt. What? The detective stepped closer and held out his hand. Ma'am, let me see those documents. Her father moved first. There's been a misunderstanding, he said quickly, trying to take the papers back. This is a family matter. But the detective ignored him completely. Lily handed over the file with shaking fingers while Dylan suddenly looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. The detective flipped through the pages fast, his eyes narrowing more with every sheet. Who filed this transfer? He asked. Nobody answered. Lily stared at her mother. You knew about this? Tears filled her mother's eyes almost instantly. Lily, we didn't have a choice. No, Lily snapped. You did. You just didn't choose me. That hit hard enough to make her father's jaw tighten. Your brother was facing felony charges, he said. You think we were just supposed to let him sit in jail? Lily laughed once, short, angry, disbelieving. This is the third time, Dad. A couple sitting near the vending machines exchanged looks. Even the officer behind the front desk had stopped pretending not to listen. Dylan rubbed both hands over his face. I said I'd pay it back. With what? Lily fired back. You don't even have a job. Lower your voice, her father warned. But Lily couldn't stop now. Not after what she was seeing. The signature page was still visible on top of the stack. Her forged signature. And then she noticed something else. The date beside the signature. Last Thursday. Her stomach tightened immediately. Last Thursday, she'd been 3 counties away working on the farmhouse roof with contractors all day long. She looked back at the detective. That date is impossible. He paused. What do you mean impossible? Lily pointed directly at the page. I wasn't even here. The detective slowly looked down at the paperwork again. Then his expression changed completely. He reached for his radio a second time. Get me records and county property verification, he said. Right now. Dylan suddenly took a step backward toward the exit, and the detective noticed immediately. Don't move, he said sharply. Dylan froze with one hand still half raised toward the exit door. The detective's voice cut through the lobby so sharply that even the conversations outside the station windows seemed to disappear. Everybody stays where they are. Lily could hear her own heartbeat now. The detective took the transfer papers and walked to the front desk, spreading the documents across the counter beneath the fluorescent lights. Another officer joined him immediately. IDs, the detective said without looking up. Her father let out an irritated breath. This is getting ridiculous. But nobody argued after that. Lily handed over her license first. Dylan hesitated long enough for the detective to notice. You too, he said firmly. Dylan shoved his wallet onto the counter. As the officers checked their information, Lily stared at her parents in disbelief. Her mother looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. Her father looked angry, not guilty. Angry that this was happening publicly. That hurt almost as much as the papers themselves. Because this wasn't random land. Their grandfather Harold had spent 40 years building that farm from nothing. And before he died, he made one thing painfully clear to the entire family. The land would go to Lily. Not because she was the oldest, because she was the only one who stayed. She was the one who drove him to appointments, the one who repaired fences beside him during summers, the one who kept paying the property taxes after his health failed. Dylan barely visited unless he needed money. The resentment started the day the will was read. And standing in that police station now, Lily realized it had never actually gone away. The detective suddenly looked up from the paperwork. Who notarized this? Nobody answered immediately. Then Dylan muttered, "A friend helped us." A friend, the detective repeated flatly. He flipped to the final page. Interesting. Lily swallowed hard. What? The detective looked directly at her. This property entered a pending sale agreement to a commercial developer yesterday morning. Lily felt the blood drain from her face. What? Her mother started crying quietly. Her father stepped forward. We were going to explain everything after Dylan's hearing. You sold it? Lily whispered. The detective's phone rang. He answered, listened for 3 silent seconds, then slowly turned toward Lily. Miss Embers, he said carefully, where were you last Thursday at exactly 3:17 p.m.? Lily didn't even have to think. I was in Brookdale, she said immediately, working on the farmhouse roof. The detective held her gaze. All day? Yes. Can anyone confirm that? 6 people can. For the first time since walking into the station, the detective looked genuinely concerned. He turned back to the paperwork, checking the timestamp beside the signature again. 3:17 p.m. Then he looked at Lily's father. You said she signed these voluntarily. She did, he answered too quickly. No, she didn't, Lily shot back. I've never even seen these papers before tonight. The tension in the lobby shifted instantly. Before, people were watching a family argument. Now they were watching something criminal unfold. 2 uniformed officers moved closer without being asked. Dylan noticed too. Can we just do this later? He muttered. This doesn't need to turn into a whole thing. Lily stared at him in disbelief. A whole thing? You stole my grandfather's land. It's family land, her father snapped. You act like you're the only person who mattered to him. That hit harder than Lily expected. For a second, she couldn't even answer. Then she looked directly at her father. I was the only one who showed up. Silence. Even her mother closed her eyes after that one. The detective interrupted before anyone else could speak. There's another issue. He tapped the notary seal at the bottom of the transfer. This stamp belongs to Martha Bell. Nobody reacted except Dylan. A tiny reaction, but Lily caught it. The detective caught it too. Martha Bell died 6 months ago, he said quietly. The room went dead silent. Her mother blinked hard. What? The detective's tone sharpened immediately. So I'll ask again. Who prepared these documents? Dylan looked away. His father stepped in front of him slightly. My son already told you, a friend helped. A friend forged county documents, the detective replied. Lily watched panic start creeping across Dylan's face for the first time all night. Then she noticed him lowering his phone beneath the counter. Typing. Fast. Her eyes narrowed. Who are you texting? No one. Dylan, suddenly he shoved the phone into his pocket and headed for the station doors. 2 officers intercepted him before he made it 3 steps. Easy, one of them warned. The detective walked over calmly and held out his hand. Phone. I know my rights, Dylan muttered. Good. Then you know not to destroy evidence. Dylan reluctantly handed it over. The detective unlocked the screen, read one message, and his entire expression changed. Slowly, he lifted his eyes toward Lily. Your brother, he said carefully, didn't do this alone. What does that mean? Lily asked immediately. But the detective was already motioning for another officer. Separate them, he ordered. Within seconds, the station lobby turned chaotic. Her father started protesting loudly, while Dylan tried demanding his phone back. An officer guided Lily toward a smaller interview room near the back hallway. The door stayed partially open as people moved rapidly through the station outside. Printers started running. Phones rang. A copier hummed nonstop somewhere nearby. And through the glass window beside the room, Lily could see the detective spreading financial records across a conference table. Something much bigger was happening now. A few minutes later, the detective entered carrying a thin folder. He sat across from Lily. Your brother's phone contained messages with someone at a private title office, he said. They rushed this transfer through county processing before ownership verification cleared. Lily stared at him. So they knew the signature was fake. Yes. Her stomach twisted. The detective slid one paper toward her, a timeline of the transfer. Filed 2 days after Dylan's arrest. Approved unusually fast. Immediate pending sale agreement attached. Everything about it looked rushed. Then Lily remembered something. 3 weeks earlier, Dylan had shown up at the farmhouse, acting strangely confident for someone constantly broke. At one point, he'd laughed and said, I finally know people who can fix problems. At the time, she thought he meant lawyers. Now she realized he probably meant this. The detective leaned back slightly. There's more. Before he could continue, voices erupted outside the interview room. A man in an expensive gray coat stormed into the station lobby carrying a briefcase. I want to know right now whether this property sale is collapsing, he barked at the front desk. Developer. It had to be. Lily watched her father's face completely lose color. Her mother started crying again. Because now the consequences were becoming real. Not just emotionally, financially, legally. The detective lowered his voice. Your parents used their house as secondary collateral connected to your brother's bail arrangement. Lily looked up sharply. What? If this transfer is fraudulent, everything attached to it starts unraveling. Out in the hallway, her father suddenly pointed toward Lily. This never would have happened if she'd just helped her brother. Lily stared at him through the glass in disbelief. Even now, even after all this, her mother finally broke. He told us she'd forgive us later, she sobbed. He said we just needed time. The detective's expression hardened. Then he opened another document from the folder and placed it on the table between Lily and himself. A bank transfer receipt, a very large one. Her eyes widened as she read the amount. The sender was the developer company. The receiver was Dylan Embers, dated 4 days before his arrest. The detective looked directly at Lily. I don't think your brother's arrest was ever the real reason they wanted your land. Lily stared at the bank transfer receipt so long the number stopped feeling real. $28,000. Transferred directly into Dylan's private account 4 days before he was arrested. Not after, before. Her throat tightened. He already got paid? The detective nodded once. Looks that way. For the first time all night, Lily stopped seeing this as a desperate family mistake. This had been planned. Dylan's arrest hadn't caused the land sale. The land sale had already been in motion. The detective opened the rest of the file. Over the next hour, the entire scheme finally came apart piece by piece. Months earlier, a commercial developer discovered that a state highway expansion was scheduled to pass near Lily's grandfather's farmland. Property values in the area were expected to skyrocket once construction plans became public. Dylan found out through a friend connected to a local title office. And instead of telling Lily, he secretly contacted the developer himself. The detective explained that Dylan had promised he could deliver the land quickly if the company paid him privately in advance. They wanted the property before the highway announcement became public, the detective said. Fast, quiet, no delays. So Dylan created urgency. His third arrest became the perfect pressure point. He convinced their parents he was facing serious prison time and told them the only way to save him was using Lily's land for bail and legal fees. Her parents panicked, and because they believed they were protecting their son, they ignored every warning sign. The forged signature, the rushed paperwork, the fake notary seal, everything. Lily's mother cried openly once the truth fully landed. He told us you'd understand eventually, she whispered. He said we were buying time until he fixed everything. But Dylan never planned to fix it. He planned to profit from it. Out in the hallway, two officers approached him near the holding area. You're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy, one of them said. Dylan immediately looked toward his father. Dad, but for once, his father had nothing to say. The confidence Dylan carried all night finally disappeared. Then came the next blow. The developer representative, after learning the transfer was fraudulent, immediately withdrew from the deal to avoid legal exposure. The title office employee involved in processing the forged documents was arrested before midnight, and suddenly the fallout hit everyone at once. Lily's parents faced potential civil liability tied to the fraudulent collateral agreements. Legal fees started piling up immediately. Word spread fast through town after police vehicles showed up at the title office the next morning. Neighbors talked. Family members called. And for the first time, Lily wasn't the one expected to clean up Dylan's mess. Her father tried contacting her 3 days later. She didn't answer, because every time she thought about that station lobby, she remembered the moment he looked at her and said the land belonged to the family only after it became valuable. Not when she was fixing fences alone, not when she paid the overdue taxes, not when their grandfather was dying. Months later, the court officially voided the transfer. The farmland remained legally hers. On a cold morning near the end of winter, Lily stood beside the entrance road, watching workers install a restored wooden sign bearing her grandfather's name across the property gate. The farmhouse still needed repairs. The fencing still leaned in places. But the land was safe, and for the first time in years, the silence out there felt peaceful instead of heavy. Her phone buzzed once in her coat pocket. A voicemail notification. Dylan, calling from county jail. She listened anyway. You really chose land over your own family, his voice said bitterly. Lily stared across the open fields her grandfather fought his entire life to protect. Then she quietly deleted the message.